So I've recently purchased a folding electric e-bike. The point of this video is to warn you about the mistakes prior to making such a large purchase decision. This was indeed an impulsive purchase on my part, and I hope that you can learn from my mistakes. To get to the point, I think the perfect bike would have been the Brompton bike, which is a folding bike popular in the UK that is extremely expensive, although very utilitarian. So I'm going to go into the details. Let's jump right into it. Other than having a comfortable bike that gets me from point A to B, my three main criteria for choosing my next folding electric bike would be these 3 points. 1. The bike needs to be securely folded so that it's very easy to handle in a busy situation such as on public transportation, and also it needs to be compact enough to fit in a grocery cart so that you never have to lock it outside and have it risk being stolen while doing errands in a store. 2. It needs to be reliable and easily repairable. It needs to come from a reputable seller with an easy warranty process. And number 3, it needs to offer a lot of utility, i.e. cargo. I'm not looking for a bike that is just for joyriding or for exercise like a race bike. I'm looking for something that will take me from A to B on a very easy commute, but also offer me the option to attach a lot of cargo so I can run errands, for example. So with those 3 points in mind, let's talk about the actual bike that I purchased. It is the Xiaomi Qicycle, and this was a very cool looking bike that I saw on Best Buy. I immediately purchased it because it was on sale about for $200 off the market price, so I paid around 1,000 Canadian dollars. That's maybe 800 US dollars. It's still a very expensive bike, but compared to what I've seen before, this seemed like a reasonable compromise. One thing I didn't know when I purchased the bike was that this was a very old model. It first came out in 2016, so it's already 4 years old, so I probably purchased a model that has been, on the shelf for quite some time and it's just gonna expire soon. Hence, actually doing a full review I think is kind of pointless since this is an old bike and no one really is gonna go out and purchase it. However, my day-to-day experience using this bike will serve as the main driver to explain my criteria when I choose a bike. Before we jump into all the lessons I've learned purchasing an electric bike, I'm gonna do a really condensed review of this bike. Now, for the positives, I have to say, like I said before, this is a very sexy looking bike. The matte black looks absolutely gorgeous. I really find that this bike looks very attractive, especially since it's so small. Riding it still looks kind of cool and sleek. In fact, it kind of reminds me of my Arcboard, which is my electric penny-sized electric skateboard, which is also very small, but also matte black. In essence, this big bike is kind of like the big brother of my little electric family, my little Arcboard. They kind of work hand in hand and they're very complementary to each other based on specific use cases that I will talk about in detail later in this video. The second thing I like about this bike is that it has a good set of lights and reflective tires for safety. That's a minor point, but it's still a really good value added to this bike. Another thing that the Xiaomi Qicycle does really well is being a joyride. Having an electric hub motor at the front on the 16-inch wheels is a lot of fun. Not having to struggle hard when biking up a hill is such a fantastic, fun experience. It kind of makes biking just fun, but you don't get all that sweat. And of course, your knees are going to be saved from not having to pedal so hard when you're trying to do a tough commute, for example. So going back to a non-electric folding bike is going to be really tough for me, especially if I do end up getting the Brompton. Thankfully, the Xiaomi bike allows for a tall person to ride the bike. I'm 6'3", but in terms of the weight capacity, I'm almost at the max capacity at 230 pounds. So if I'm going to do groceries, I'm going to be over the max capacity and I'm kind of scared to ride this bike. It may not be safe. So I really wish that this would be more accommodating to people who are heavier. So those were all the positive points about this Xiaomi bike. I really do like parts of it. However, there are some major flaws that I want to talk about. The first is the folding mechanism. The folding mechanism is kind of finicky. It's not very good. It's not very well designed. First of all, when you do end up folding the bike, it's still extremely large and very big. So when you store it in a small corner, or you're trying to take it into, let's say, a grocery cart when you want to do shopping, or you want to take it inside to like the subway or a bus, it takes up a lot of space and it's nowhere near the size it would take from a Brompton. So it's just really big. The second thing about the folding design is that it is very finicky. So what happens is when you fold it, it connects with these two magnets on the front and rear wheel. What happens is that when you try to move it, let's say you want to move the folded bike somewhere to another place, it will become unfolded. Essentially, the magnets do nothing in helping this bike stay secure when it's folded. Also, the handlebar is all flip-floppity. It's not securely tied to anything. So it just kind of It's very loose, and when you try to pick it up and try to move it around, everything is just moving apart and unfolding as you're picking it up, unlike the Brompton and other more well-designed folding bikes. And what's terrible is that carrying this bike, it's pretty heavy, about 30 pounds. Due to the awkward design of it unfolding as you pick it up, you might get your shirt or your pants dirty with the oil on the chain. It's a poor design. It's not meant for commuting. It's not meant for like quick unfolding and folding. It's kind of annoying to unfold it. You have to like take out the seat. It's just not a really fun experience when you unfold and fold the bike. However, for the occasional car trip, if you want to save space and put this in the back of a trunk, it will fit. And this is what it's designed for. I personally never unfold or fold this bike. I always keep it ready to go because I find folding it not worth it. The next major flaw with this bike is that the motor sometimes doesn't work. So you can see I'm pedaling and the bike is not working. The wattage is not showing anything. Not working. It's not working.
No,
You can't hear the motor. What's the point of having an electric bike if the motor doesn't kick in? In fact, there's a lot of resistance on the hub motor because if you try to spin it, the hub motor will not spin very fast. In fact, it doesn't spin at all, unlike the Brompton electric bike. So the hub motor adds a lot of resistance. So if you're riding this without the motor working, it's just extremely hard. It's doubly hard than with the electric motor. The motor is very finicky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to turn it off and then turn it back on, and then the motor kicks in. I'm not sure what's wrong with the sensor. I might have a defective unit, but the warranty process of getting this repaired is extremely gruesome. I'm going to talk about that later. This is one of the major things I learned about buying an electric folding bike, something that you want to avoid in the future. Now, a few other cons to this bike is that it comes with no mud guards. I actually went through a little puddle and I got my entire bag. I got my whole, like everything dirty below me. It was really terrible. I really wish they would include some $5 mud guards. I think that's a really kind of shameful thing they forgot to include. It also doesn't include a cargo stand, so trying to carry anything with this is going to be quite a cumbersome experience. You're going to have to think very creatively or add one yourself, which can also be very difficult given the form factor of an electric folding bike. You might have to wear a backpack and get your back sweaty. And lastly, the seat was absolutely terrible. It was very uncomfortable to ride. It was a tiny, small seat, very hard. There's no shock or anything like that. So riding long distances, more than 10 minutes on this bike was very uncomfortable. Hurt my butt a lot. So I went on Amazon and I bought this really expensive gel seat. It looks really oversized and looks kind of hilarious, but at least I can put a bag on it, kind of use it as a cargo. So it solves two problems in one. It was a tad expensive, around 50 Canadian dollars. But it was worth every penny because it provides a much smoother ride thanks to the shocks built into the seat that absorbs all the bumps as I ride in the streets of Toronto. So I know I talked a lot about this bike and a lot about the fundamental flaws it has, especially with regards to the motor being very flaky and not working sometimes. However, at the end of the day, I still really enjoy it. I like having an electric bike. I do think it's a fantastic value given the price compared to a Brompton. But I would not purchase this bike again, and I don't recommend you purchasing a similar type of bike. Let's talk about some of the 3 points I'm going to make with regards to choosing your next electric bike. Let's get into it. The first major point you want to consider when purchasing your next electric folding bike is how small the bike actually gets when you fold it. What I really like about having a folding bike is that if you live in a tiny apartment or condo or a small house, having this near my shoe rack and just near the entrance is very convenient. If you get a full size, like a 40-inch tire bike or something like that, it just takes up so much space and it's very bulky, very hard to maneuver between elevators and having people like packed in the elevator and moving through the doors of a condo, for example. Having a compact bike is simply amazing, especially if you live in a city that is in favor of a lot of condos. So one thing that you should really keep in mind is the fold-up size. So not only the size of the bike when it's unfolded, but the fold-up size. And like I said before, this bike, when it's folded, it's a bifold. So it can only fold at one point of the bike in terms of the half. This is still a very large bike when it's folded. It's not very convenient. It is kind of difficult to put it in a smaller car, I would say. So if you want a really good bike, obviously look at the Brompton. It uses a tri-fold technique, which makes the bike extremely small, almost the size of a carry-on luggage. This is going to make it very easy to put it into like a small space. You're going to be able to travel with it. For example, let's say you want to go grocery shopping and you want to take your bike inside the grocery store. You can put it into the grocery cart and it just fits in and you can not have to lock it outside. So I have to say Brompton is the gold standard when it comes to folding bikes. And yes, it's extremely expensive. You can get 2 of these Xiaomi Qicycle bikes for just one Brompton, and the electric Brompton you can get almost 4.5. So yes, they're very expensive, but the utility that you get out of it, the value you extract out of it is definitely worth it. This brings me to my next point, and it's called utility. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that when you buy your next folding electric bike, you want to make sure that you have utility in mind. So not just the smallness factor, but also utility. But what I mean by utility is the ability for you to actually run errands and carry cargo on this bike. Not only does it help you to get from point A to B, but being able to go into the grocery store, fold it up, and not have to lock your bike outside to prevent someone from actually stealing your bike, your $2,000 or $1,000 investment, is extremely important. And I think utility is something that everyone needs to look at. So when you find a bike, make sure you see that it has like a cargo, something to carry something. For example, all Bromptons are equipped with a front-loaded carrier. You can just buy a bag, you can attach it to the clip, and you get a lot of cargo. Obviously, you can get the add-on, you can get the back rack, which is going to be even more utility, more cargo space for you. This bike, the Xiaomi Qicycle, had nothing, and it's just very difficult to add anything to cargo. I did, however, get a new seat, which allowed me to attach a camera bag to the bottom of the seat. It's not a very pleasant experience to ride because it swings back and forth, as you can see, but at least provides some utility. You know, the sad part about this is that when I want to go on groceries, I actually take my ARC board, my penny-sized electric skateboard, instead of my electric folding bike. And that sounds crazy, but with the ARC board, I can actually put it in the shopping cart very discreetly. No one's going to see it. No one's going to take it on from there. I don't have to lock it outside and risk some theft stealing it. And in Toronto, people steal bikes very often. If you live in a very dense urban city, it's likely that it's going to be stolen, especially if it's a Brompton or a very fancy electric bike. I find it quite ironic that this tiny electric skateboard allows me to take $100 worth of groceries back home, whereas this electric folding bike is pretty much useless because I don't want to lock it out. It's not a risk I'm willing to take when I'm doing groceries. One thing you might think about is, why don't I just get an electric scooter? Well, those electric scooters can get really big and they can be very long. So in the end, if you're trying to do errands with it, you can't really attach any cargo to it. You'll have to use a backpack, and that can get really sweaty and very unbalanced and very heavy on your back. And these e-scooters can be actually really big, so they kind of be hard to stow away. And you can't lock them outside because they're very easy to steal. So really look for a bike, and I'm telling you, it's probably just going to be the Brompton that's going to be the best choice. Because the Brompton bike is very easy to unfold and fold, and it's small enough to fit in a grocery cart. And if you don't have a grocery cart, you can simply pull it like a luggage with the two mini wheels that are built in. This makes it very easy to maneuver inside a store and actually use it as a shopping cart. So it's very easy to bring it in and do your errands. Other smaller but still important features that you'll want in your next electric folding bike may be a kickstand to make it very easy to use, and of course mudguards. These little things such as lights and having a bell and all the stuff built into the bike is really going to add to the whole experience when you're using this as a commuter and errand runner bike. The third and final and last thing I want to talk about in terms of the next thing you want to look at when you purchase your next very expensive electric folding bike is the reliability of the bike and the repairability. And you also want a very good, easy warranty process. So what I may mean by this, let's take a counter example. I got my Xiaomi Qicycle bike and the motor wasn't working. It's very flaky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have to turn it on, turn it off as I'm riding. I have to do some weird tricks for it to work, basically. Paying $1,000, this is unacceptable. You want a bike to work. You want to turn it on, the motor should just work as you pedal assist, for example. So I contacted support, and what they ended up saying is that you can ship this bike and we're gonna inspect it and try to repair it, obviously under the warranty. However, the crazy thing is that they wanted me to pay to ship this bike back to wherever factory it came from. And there's a chance that they might not detect the actual problem with the motors since it's very intermittent. So what could actually happen is that when they want to ship the bike back to me, I'm going to be billed another time. And let me tell you, shipping this bike in Canada is very expensive. I don't get the commercial rate. I have to pay just like a regular retail rate, and it's almost going to cost as much as the bike to return it back. So there was no point in me trying to go through all the work to return this bike, especially having to keep the box, put it back in the box, put everything, risk it not being damaged as I return it. The box is so big and bulky, as you can tell by the unboxing. So the overall experience of buying an electric folding bike online from just some random e-retailer is not very recommendable. What I recommend is actually visiting someone in a store physically so that you can get the proper warranty process that you need if in case the bike doesn't work. Having the deal of online support and then shipping a huge, large bike is not a fun experience, and it's also going to cost you a lot of money. You might as well pay the extra premium and get some insurance policy, buy it from an authorized retailer, and that way you can have the first party support that you deserve. Now, like I said before, these criterias, the three of them that I mentioned, is purely subjective. I'm mentioning them. I think they're very important for me. However, if you just want an electric folding bike or some electric bike or any bike that is just for joyriding or just having fun, just don't care about having to carry anything, or you don't mind locking it outside, or you live in a very safe neighborhood where no one's going to take your bike, then yeah, you can get any bike you want, any no frills bike, and it's going to be super simple. You don't have to worry about all these little things that I'm talking about right now. So in conclusion, I guess I should have bought a Brompton bike. The Brompton bike is a trifold. It's more compact, easy to bring in to do errands when I want to go shopping, for example, never have to lock it. It's easy to repair, and it would have been dealt through an authorized dealer, which would provide me the warranty services I would need in case the bike was damaged within the warranty period, of course. So all these things could have been avoided if I just had done a little bit more research and thought about the scenarios that would have happened purchasing the Xiaomi Qicycle bike. In conclusion, I still love my electric folding bike. I do recommend purchasing one, especially during these times where people don't want to take public transportation. Anyways, that's it for this video. Stay safe, ride with a helmet, and I will see you in the next video.